My name is Michelle Hart, and I'm a diet and detox specialist, and I want to welcome you to today's talk, which is all about exercise nutrition. And I want to start by thanking James for allowing us to share the space. So thanks, James.
You're welcome.
So by the end of today's talk, you're going to learn three main things. The first thing is you're going to learn how to eat to build muscle, burn fat, improve your energy delivery to have optimal exercise and better health outcomes. The second thing you're going to learn is the importance that micronutrients play in overall health and exercise. And the third thing is your best morning routine and evening routine to set the stage for a high performance day. So I want to start by asking you guys a question. I want to know, what are you struggling with, or what your clients are struggling with when it comes to diet and exercise?
Compliance would be one.
Time.
So they're falling off. So there's a healthy plan, but they're not following it. They keep
Yeah.
falling off. Okay. What else?
Time.
Time to make healthy meals
busy
or
schedule.
busy schedule. So does that mean it's leading to fast food or
No,
not eating at the right
just-
time
that would
and
be it.
waiting too long and then having that crash?
There's
That-
no static meal times.
right,
It's all over the place.
right. So it's not planned at all. Right. Okay. So lack of planning, too busy, not enough preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? You guys want to share, with your clients, what they're complaining about? Okay, well, thanks for sharing. My story, just why I'm even up here, is because there. So for me, I've been fit my whole life. I love to exercise. I love to move. And there was a time when my health suffered because I wasn't fueling my body properly, and I was breaking my body down. And so I looked to see what healthy eating was. And so I followed what was recommended, and it was changing my butter to margarine. It was switching my sugar to Splenda, and I remember it was low-fat everything. And so I thought, okay, well, I could follow that. That sounds really easy to do. And so I started following that way of eating, and I really hurt, my body became quite ill. And I actually developed a disease called osteoporosis at a very young age. My body was breaking down so quickly that my bones were weak, and I was only 32. I had the body of an 80-year-old grandma when I was 32. So the solution was medication to build my bones. But for me, I wanted to find out, why were my bones breaking down? I thought I was following the best diet. And so I stumbled across a natural way of eating and a natural diet. And so I started following that, and I got better so quickly. My energy came up. My hair started to get stronger again because it was actually falling out. And my energy came back, like I said, that's what I noticed first. And my menstrual cycle came back. My bones started to get strong. I thought, well, it didn't even take long. So I thought, well, gosh, more people have to know about this natural diet idea, and they need to move away from what's artificial, because I was following what was artificial, so I started feeling artificial. And when I started to eat natural foods, I started to feel really, really good. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, more people have to know. So I thought, well, I better get my degree, because I better get my letters beside my name so that people can actually even pay attention to my message. And so I got my degree in nutrition, and then I wanted to learn more, and so I became a chartered herbalist. And again, I wanted to dive deep, what is our best diet? What is our best way to navigate our day so we can have our best days? Because don't we want to all be healthy and happy? I know I did. I always wanted to have fun, but it's not fun being sick. It's not fun having low energy. And so then I got into detoxification. So I pulled all these tools under my belt and opened up a clinical practice, and started helping people one-on-one, and their lives were getting back to where they wanted it. So 20 years later is here. So this is 20 years of experience, and I am so happy and excited to be able to share this information, because I find there's a big voice with the artificial land, and people are confused, and there's not a big enough voice for the natural. Because really, when we start feeling and fueling our bodies this way, it doesn't take long, I'm telling you. So that's my story. So fit and healthy. So I want you to start thinking about food in a different way. I want you to start looking at food as not calories. I want you to start looking at food as actual nutrition and its effect on our bodies. And did you know that the body requires, it's 60 different essential nutrients every single day. We need 30 macronutrients with trace minerals that we're not getting. We need 13 fat and water-soluble vitamins and minerals, 9 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids. This is what we need to be healthy. And if we don't have enough, our bodies can't do certain things. And here we're expecting it. Why this, why that? We're not fueling our bodies properly. So I want to start by talking about the micronutrients. We talk so much about macronutrients, but really we need to look at these trace minerals and these vitamins and minerals that are in our foods. And so micronutrient deficiency is actually the #1 area most missed that directly impairs your body to be balanced. And if this goes on for too long, here's what happens. That's what's linked to disease. You're not getting the nutrition. And so I wanted to bring this forward, and I wanted to actually talk about one of the primary nutrients that we really want to pay attention to when we're exercising, because this is about exercise nutrition. Zinc. Zinc is, I test for this kind of stuff, and I see low zinc on, like, so often. And zinc is so important. We need it for 200 different functions in the body. When I talk about zinc, I really want you to think about testosterone. So we want to make sure that we have good amounts of testosterone, because if not, you're tired, you can't build muscle, your body composition's tank, and you have a hard time even having a child. So we've got to make sure our testosterone's optimal. And the other thing with testosterone is when you have optimal amounts, you're motivated and driven. If not, you don't want to get out of bed. You're just not motivated. It's like, do all those things. So we want to make sure that our zinc is optimized, and it's really important for testosterone. The next thing that zinc's really important for is digestion. We need it for hydrochloric acid production. And when we're shuttling these proteins in our bodies, we need to make sure we have optimal hydrochloric acid to be able to actually break down the proteins that we're putting in our bodies. And if we don't have enough, we feel it as a log in the stomach. Why can't I digest my food? Why do I get gas and bloating? Why do I have all these infections all the time? Because you don't have enough stomach acid. And so often when my clients come in, their stomach, I could test for that, their stomach acid it's tanked. It's tanked. And anybody over 40 needs to pay attention to that, and anybody who's stressed needs to pay attention to that. Well, exercise is a form of stress to the body. It's a good stress, but if you're not making sure that your hydrochloric acid production is optimal, you wonder why you're not where you want to be. And then you take a step back, well, how's my zinc? Honestly, that's kind of how it looks. Zinc's also really critical for immune function. Now, we're in February right now. We want to make sure our immune system is optimized because everyone's falling sick, right? So we've got to pay attention to these micronutrients. It's important for metabolism. It's also important for if you can't taste your foods, you're low in zinc. It's a soft test for low in zinc. So foods that are high in zinc are pumpkin seeds, oysters are really high in zinc. But you can also test to see what your levels are. I like to test and not guess, but we want to make sure that we have a variety of foods that are good qualities, and pay attention to that. So I did want to show this slide because testosterone is so highly tied to good exercise outcomes. You want to make sure you have good testosterone. And these are all the nutrients that are linked to having optimal testosterone. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. The other thing is, if you're hungry all the time, did you know that that's completely linked to low zinc? Because low zinc links to this inability to balance your hunger satiety. So, because it's all about leptin. Leptin is signals to the body when to eat and when not to eat. If you can't tell, it could be that you're actually low in zinc. So somebody who's struggling with being hungry all the time, or can't even tell when they're hungry, like their appetite's off, that's another direct tie to zinc. So now I want to shift gears to carnitine. And it's another another nutrient that we really want to pay attention to if we want to have good exercise outcomes. So carnitine, when we think about carnitine, I want you to think about fat burning. Yeah, so carnitine, when you have optimal amounts, you're shuttling the fatty acids that you're eating from your diet into the mitochondria and producing ATP, which is energy. If you don't have enough carnitine, the fatty acids aren't shuttled in to make energy. So you're low energy. And so you need enough carnitine for that. The other thing is it's really important for muscle recovery. So if you're training and you're not recovering very quickly, we want you to take a look at how are your carnitine levels. So if you're overweight and you have more weight than you want and you're not recovering, those are two major signs of low carnitine. And it leads to muscle weakness and fatigue. So just something to pay attention to. And when I test my clients with the micronutrient test, so I do all this testing, I see low carnitine so often. And when we bring it up, then they can actually start to burn fat because they didn't have the nutrients to be able to burn fat. They're asking the body to burn fat, but they don't have the nutrients. So I just really wanted to bring this to your attention. Okay? So when it comes to exercise nutrition, there are a number of key nutrients that are really important to make sure that you're optimal to actually get the results that you're looking for. Okay? That's my message here. So I'm going to shift gears now and talk a little bit about diet. And so this is an exercise nutrition talk. So we want to build muscle and burn fat. And for that, we need to find out the experts that do all the research to follow them to see what they come up with. So this is definitely one of the best. Professor Stu Phillips, he's really interested in diet and exercise-induced changes to body composition. So he really studies a lot about protein. His thing is protein. He has done research of what is the optimal protein to what you're looking to, what your result is. So let's take a step back and go, well, let's even look at what protein is. Protein is, when you eat protein, it breaks down into amino acids in the body, and there's 9 that are essential, which means your body can't make them, you have to get it from your diet. That's what essential means. And it's what makes you up. It is your structural component. It makes up your skin, your bones, your muscles, your hair. So if you have issues with your actual structure, you feel weak, we want to make sure that our protein is optimal, especially when we're exercising. Because you're breaking the body down, we need to repair and build the body back up so it gets stronger and more robust. And if you find that you're sagging, your skin is sagging, and you have joint pain and joint issues, you've got to really take a look at getting the protein in. So now we have to look at, well, okay, that's fine, Michelle. I want to get protein in, but how much protein should I have? Well, the RDA, I'm sorry, is just not enough. It is not enough. And this is all research by Professor Phillips. He's the one who brought this to the attention, because here RDA is saying, 0.36 grams of protein per pound, of body weight, not per gram, per pound of body weight. So that means if you're 150 pounds, that's about 50 grams of protein. And Professor Phillips says that is just, no, it's not enough. We need to have more protein. And so what he's recommending is a good target would be 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And so we want to make sure that we start to hit this target, especially if you're exercising. Because again, when you exercise, you're signaling to the body to make more muscle. It needs the building blocks to make the muscle. Otherwise, you're going to waste away, and you're wondering why you're not getting your results. Why am I not stronger, right? So if you're exercising, you really want to make sure you hit your target. When the protein is number 1. The other thing is interesting is as we age, we actually need more protein as we age too. Why? Because we are at risk of sarcopenia, which is muscle loss. And so we want to offset it with the protein. So that's the other thing. And if you're ill, you need protein to build the body to be strong. Okay? So what protein does for our bodies is I kind of touched upon it before, but what it does is it will help you build muscle when you weight train, because it's a building block. It also preserves muscle so you don't waste. And it promotes fat loss because you're building muscle, and when you do, you're going to be able to burn more fat. It'll boost your metabolism because the body requires more calories to to be able to sustain the muscle that you're asking to build. So your metabolism will go up. So that means you can eat more food and not shuttle it as fat, but it actually gets shuttled into the muscle to build more muscle. It makes you feel fuller. So if you're hungry all the time, we have to look at, are you eating enough protein? Because you could be eating too many carbs. Carbs will not fill you up. The body goes, no, I'm still hungry. I need more food. You don't need more carbs. You may be needing more protein. That's what the body's trying to say to you. Your body is so wise. We've just got to listen to it. Like, seriously, it's amazing. We're so powerful. We've been here for 2.4 million years. Like, we've run away from lions and we're still here. Like, we're so powerful. So we have to pay attention to, wait a minute, what's my body telling me? What are these? So it's being mindful. And so the other thing is, no one's talking about this, but it helps you clear away the toxins because it helps you with detoxification. Did you know that you need certain amino acids to allow the body to do phase 2 detoxification? Phase 2 detoxification happens in the liver, and what it does is it allows the liver to shuttle the toxins out of the liver into the kidneys and out the urine or out the stool. So if we don't have enough protein, guess what? We re-intoxicate. And guess what? We're living in a toxic environment. So now that we know that, we want to make sure our detoxification pathways are working properly. And nobody's talking about, we got to get these amino acids in our body to be able to do phase 2. And we know if phase 2 is blocked, that's breast cancer. So we know that happens. So we want to make sure that we're opening up these pathways. And remember, I'm just arming you with information. And whatever you do with it is fine, but I'm just opening up your eyes to some things that aren't talked about, okay? That can make a very big difference. So the other thing about protein is, did you know that you need it to have good immune system? Because it's really important for antibody production. That is your army. Your army in your body needs to get the protein for it to be a good army and a very strong and robust army. So the other thing with protein is I highly recommend, this is what I do for my clients, eat protein every time you have a meal. So I want you to think about, where's my protein source? Where is my protein for this meal? So that does require some planning, but now you're armed with the information why we need the protein. Why? Again, because it's going to allow you to balance the blood sugar so you're not hungry all the time. It's going to increase the satiety. It's going to fuel the muscle that you've asked to fuel because you've exercised. But really what we want to do is we want to make sure you hit protein every time we eat. So that's always what I do with my clients, and it really works well because guess what? They go, you know what, Michelle? Like, I'm not tied to the fridge anymore. I can actually think and be productive instead of me thinking about food all day. Because that's not a way to live, is it? We have other things we want to do, and I want you to go out there and rock it out and have your best days. Okay? So now we think, okay, so now we know what protein does. We know the importance of it, but Michelle, like, what are the best protein sources? Well, we can get protein from a variety of sources. We can get them from animals or plants. And so if we're going to get them from animals, we want to make sure that the animals are properly raised, because beef from a cow that was caged and not able to run around and eating grain is a completely different food to our bodies and different information than a cow that is allowed to go and live his best life, or her best, whatever, run around the pasture, eat grass and eat its natural diet, and have a happy life. So they're completely different in our bodies. One is stress and the other one is not. And so even the amino acid profile or the essential fatty acid profile is completely different. One is inflammatory and the other one is anti-inflammatory. And I know that because I take courses on how to help post-cancer recovery, and we're taught how to feed them properly so they can lower the inflammation. And we know with grass-finished cows that are able to run around in their pasture, is an anti-inflammatory type of food than it is one that's in factory farm. So quality is so important. We can talk about, oh yeah, eat, beef or pork or chicken or whatever, but you know what? Where is it sourced? Is it in its natural environment? That makes the biggest difference. So if money is an issue, I still recommend you buy the high quality one, just eat less. That's all you need to do. And for when it comes to fish and seafood, I recommend wild sources, not farmed. They're completely different in the body. One is inflammatory and one's not inflammatory. So you want to look for wild salmon and wild sources, wild caught fish, and not the farmed, because they are completely different. Remember, we're trying to have better exercise outcomes. We need to feed our bodies properly. And plus we're supporting a healthy environment too. It's gonna get cleaner and people are get happier and everything works out, and we can support that. Eggs need to be from chickens where the chickens are out running around eating bugs and grass. That's their natural diet, not in a cage where they cut their beaks off and, we don't wanna even support that. That's just horrible, and it happens, and I think it's wrong. So, we wanna eat them from farm chickens that are out in the farm, and they're having their good lives. Dairy. So dairy can be really healthy for the individual if they can tolerate it. So how do you know if you can tolerate it? Well, first of all, has your ancestry been eating dairy? That's the first thing. So for me, I'm Russian, and we've been eating dairy for a long, long time. So I'm really good with dairy, because my body has the ability to break it down. But if your ancestry is from an area in the world where they didn't have much dairy at all, then probably you're not very good with dairy, because you haven't been able to have the genetics to break it down, because your ancestry, all these genes get passed on from generation to generation. And so that's the first one. The second thing is if you're gas and bloated, you have skin, or those would be sure signs of a dairy intolerance. If you have autoimmune, totally no way. It's contraindicated with autoimmune condition. And acne, for sure. We know that it's completely linked to acne. But here's the other thing. Quality is everything when it comes to dairy. So if you're looking at, say, yogurt, which I do recommend, make sure it's non-homogenized and organic and made from A2 cows and not the A1 cow source. So A2 cows, one would be Jerseyland. So Jerseyland is the brand that I recommend. That they're from Jerseyland cows. They're A2, and that type of a cow is compatible to our body. Okay, our body responds well to that. It doesn't inflame. But if you have dairy from cows that are from A1 source, then that is shown to be inflammatory to the body. So it may not be the dairy, it may be the quality of the dairy. So that's something for you guys to dig into. A2, A1, those kind of things. So I think yogurt could be a really good adjunct to your diet, especially it's easy to digest and it's really good for the gut, so that's something. Protein powders are awesome because they're already pre-digested, and they're great if you're time-starved and you didn't really plan very well. And I mean, to just put together a quick smoothie is so quick, but at least you're getting the protein in. And just make sure, again, the protein powder, you want to look at the ingredients. We don't want to see any artificial anything in there. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be just sweetened with stevia, like simple. And there's whey, and there is plant-based. So there's so many good proteins out there now, and so you can try them. And if it sits well in your body, then it works. If not, then try something else. But really, you're unique. Remember, you're biochemically unique. So your body will tell you if it's working or not. Okay. Nuts and seeds. If you're fighting an infection, they're not recommended because they actually raise arginine, which feeds viruses. And so if you're someone who gets cold sores a lot, or you have a low immune system, we don't really want to have a lot of nuts and seeds until you fix the gut, and then you can start introducing nuts and seeds. But if you're healthy, and if you're otherwise healthy, then nuts and seeds are a great source of protein. And all I do is recommend that if you are going to have the bigger nuts, that you don't just eat nuts without them being soaked or sprouted, because they have a natural defense system in there, and they're like gut irritants. So if you just have a bag or a handful of almonds and you're wondering why you have a stomach ache, is because they're full of enzyme inhibitors, phytic acid, and trypsin inhibitors that make your gut hurt. So a better strategy would be to make sure when you buy your almonds that they're already pre-soaked, or if you buy your seeds that they're actually sprouted. So I buy my pumpkin seeds and my sunflower seeds pre-sprouted. You can actually get them in the stores that way now. And then I always soak my almonds, and I soak my cashews, and I soak my walnuts on the counter with a little bit of water and some salt. And then the next day you just rinse them, and now, like, they're pre-soaked. It's the easiest thing, and now your body accepts them. They've got rid of all the gut irritants, and now you can actually absorb the nutrition, good nutrition, from these healthy nuts and seeds. Carbohydrates. So we've talked about protein. So now I'm going to switch gears into carbohydrates. So that's what is a carb? Well, a carb is a sugar to the body. And so it is in carbs are in fruits, they're in grains, they're in vegetables, and they're in some milk products. So why do we need them? Well, these are plants that we need to have proper bowel movements, because plants have fiber in them and they have soluble and non-soluble fiber to allow for good gut lining, to allow for good bowel movements, because again, when we eat, we want to make sure we absorb the nutrition from our healthy foods, but also get rid of the waste products. And so that's why we want to introduce a lot of good plants into our diet, because they have good fibers to allow this to happen. The other thing is they're full of polyphenols, full of plant chemicals that our bodies need to be healthy. And it's like a vegetable in a bottle, it's like a vitamin bottle, but it's from plants. And my suggestion is to increase the amount of plants that you put in your bodies for these reasons, and also to replenish the glycogen in your liver and your muscles. So what happens is, as you go on your day, you're actually depleting the sugar that's stored in the liver and the muscles, and then when you introduce carbohydrates, it puts that sugar back in so that you can have long-standing energy throughout the day. So I hope that makes sense, but carbohydrates, again, are really good for allowing the body to remove toxins. It's really good for vitamins and minerals, and it allows you to have better energy throughout the day. So we have to think about, well, how much carbs do we need if we know that they're really important? So for that, I always look to Mark Sisson. He is one of the ones that has done a lot of research on carbs and exercise nutrition, and what his goal was, if you're looking to really kickstart your weight loss, that's when you want to lower your carbs, because carbs will they tend to disrupt our metabolism if we have too much. So if your metabolism is already disrupted and you want to fix it again by losing weight, then we want to make sure that we're lowering our carbs until our body gets into a better weight. So for that, you want to go low carb if you want to lose some extra weight. And that's kind of the bottom line. And it's like a quick start, but if you just want to gradually get into a better weight and gradually lose weight, then you can up your carbs a little bit. If you don't care, you just want to keep where you are, then you want to make sure you're at about 100 grams. Anything over 150 could be an issue, unless you're like a hard charging athlete, which requires that amount. If not, you really need to pay attention to the amount of carbs. So when we talk about carbs, what are the best carb sources? Well, it's not breads and pastas and rice and all these like packaged foods. That's what we kind of move away from. We want to get nutrient-rich foods in our bodies. So those are vegetables. So if you can put in colorful vegetables into your diet, that would be the #1 carb source that I recommend. Because again, it's got the fiber in there, it's got the plant chemicals to assist in our health, and so basically, the bolus of your carbs really is the non-starchy fibrous carbs, because they're low in carbs, but they're high in fiber and they're full of nutrients. So that's kind of where I want you to go with thinking about carbs, is going to that list. And then we have the starchy carbs, which are higher in carbohydrates. We just want to pay attention that if we're eating too many of them, it may be too much for our bodies. The grains, depends. Like if you have an autoimmune condition, grains are contraindicated. They are not okay if you have an autoimmune condition. Why? Because you can't digest them, because you have a gut issue. And best sources of grains, if you are going to have them, is going to make sure, again, that you're soaked and sprouted. Why? Because they're hard to digest unless they are. So when you're at the store and you're looking for breads or whatever, just make sure that it says properly soaked or properly sprouted. If it's just flour, that's hard to, it's glue in the gut. It's really hard to digest, and that's where the energy goes. It doesn't go to give you great exercise outcomes. It doesn't. It goes to trying to break this thing down that you put in your body, like glue. So just pay attention again to soaked and sprouted when it comes to grains. And there's a lot of good grains out there that are already pre-treated this way. So just, again, I'm opening up your eyes to, oh, yeah, I can have some grain. I just want to make sure that it's properly soaked or sprouted. So then your body will respond better because you'll have more energy, okay? Beans and legumes are awesome, really good in fiber. They have a lot of, fiber for our bodies, and a lot of the blue zones, actually, they study the blue zones, which are the ones that have lived the longest and the healthiest, and they found that they were eating a fair bit of beans and legumes. But again, they're soaked and sprouted. They're not just, they have to be properly treated. Otherwise, they have these irritants that are naturally there that we feel irritated. So make sure that beans and legumes are properly soaked and sprouted. And the other thing is, if you have an autoimmune condition or a digestive issue, I would not recommend beans or legumes until you fix that first, then start to introduce it. Because why? You can't digest it. And that's where the energy goes. Fruit, I like to think about fruit as what's grown in your environment and what's in season. So it's winter, so there's not really much fruit going around, so it's not really a good part of your diet. I don't recommend. Your best diet is eating within your environment and in season. Why? Because it's got the highest in nutrition and your body responds better. So when it comes to spring or summer or fall, pay attention to what's grown in your area and start to introduce fruit then. If you really like your fruit now, then I recommend going with the lower sugar, higher fiber, which is berries. So like a cup of berries, all colorful berries, that's great. And I wouldn't really be chowing much on the tropical fruit because we don't live in a tropical environment, and your body does respond in a way better if you can eat what's grown in your environment. When you go to Mexico, have lots of papaya and mango and all that sort of thing there, but when you come here, eat what's here. So here's my additional carb health tips. So the first thing, I've already talked about the seasonal fruit. Here's the thing that's really game-changing for my clients is if they can eat their protein during the day and their non-starchy fibrous carbs during the day. So then they save their starchy carbs, like below the ground or the grains, for the evening meal, because that seems to allow for a better sleep. So that's a trick that I've been using a lot with my clients, and I'm getting really good results with that. So it's kind of like low carb during the day, but at night you can add that bit of starchy carb with your evening meal. It allows for that better sleep, and when you have better sleep, everything works so much better. And so how much starchy carbs? I recommend a half a cup of cooked for the evening meal. So you can try that. So we talked about protein, we talked about carbs, and now we're going to talk a little bit about fat. So what is fat? Well, fat breaks down into glycerol and fatty acids in the body, and there's different types of fat. There's saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated. They all have different roles. Why do we need them? Well, we want to put the fire out in our bodies, anti-inflammatory. We really want to pay attention to those fats that are anti-inflammatory. Remember I was talking about the animal products? Really, you've got to pay attention to that too. So you want to eat the animal products that are not inflammatory to our body. So really pay attention to quality. So when our bodies are in pain, we're inflaming. So we've got to pay attention to what we're putting in our bodies to put the fire out. Good fats also support, we're fat heads, brain and nervous system. Okay, so we want to support the brain, our computer, with the good fats. It's also, your cell membranes are made of fat, so we want to make sure you have the right type of fats to have the right cell membranes. And they help stabilize blood sugar, so again, you're not tied to the fridge again. So if you find that you're always eating all the time, make sure that you get your protein in and that you get some fat in there also with each meal. It will help stabilize blood sugar. It's important for hormone balance. Why? Because it's the building blocks for hormones. And it's the delivery system for those vitamins from your vegetables. I would never eat just plain vegetables on their own. Why? Because they have fat-soluble vitamins that if we add a little bit of fat, you can use those vitamins as function in the body, but if we have just vegetables on their own and not without the fat, you're missing out on these amazing fat-soluble vitamins that could be doing a lot of good in your body. They also, it makes your food taste good. And so you want to love your food, right? You don't want to eat food you don't like. That's not good. So how much fat do we need? So here's what I recommend is I always start my clients with a tablespoon of fat per meal. Why? Because your liver needs to release bile to break down the fat. If your liver is congested, then it's going to have a hard time releasing the bile to break down the fat. And you know you've had too much fat if you're nauseous. That's the number one soft test to a liver that's congested. So I would start with a tablespoon of fat with your meals. But I wouldn't really start with much more than that. And see how you go. Allow the liver to release the bile to break it down and get used to this fat every time you eat. Because remember, you're training your body to be a good body. And so once that starts to work for you, then you can start to introduce more fat. But I would start with just a tablespoon of extra fat. What are your best fats? Well, I like the anti-inflammatory fats first. And those are fish oils or fish. That's your omega-3. Those are the anti-inflammatory. They put out the fire. So if you have pain, you want to make sure you have more of these types of. If you want to like get trim and lose weight, I like the fats from butter because it's got high in CLA. Grass-finished butter is really good for weight loss. And also coconut oil. Why? Because it's an antimicrobial and it cleans up the bad bugs for you to have good gut health, for you actually to be able to absorb the nutrients and lose the weight too. It has a direct effect. So if you have cardiovascular issues, I love olive oil for that. Why? Because it's really good for your cardiovascular system. And avocado oil. I always think Mediterranean kind of fats are really good. Why? Because they are good for cardiovascular system and they tend to be anti-inflammatory. So again, with the nuts and seeds, I'd be careful with that. If you're fighting an infection or if you have digestive issues, I would not be eating much of those until you get that fixed, and then I would start to introduce that. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what I call superfoods. So this is not what's marketed as superfoods, okay? So we're bombarded with all these messages, buy this, buy that, moringa this, or this, that. And it costs you a fortune and you think you're doing the body good, but really let's look at like real foods, because our real foods, like whole foods, have incredible superpowers. And I'm going to show you the top ones. Prebiotic foods. Why do we want these? These are the ones that feed the good guys in your gut so that they grow. And why do you want that? So you can have a proper immune system. Okay? And so we need to feed these good guys for them to grow and have a good colony. Those are what prebiotic foods are. And so what are they? They're dandelion greens, garlic, leeks, onions, asparagus, artichoke. These are really good to feed the good guys for you to increase your army and for you to have a good immune system. The other one is fermented foods. Now, if you're not used to having fermented foods, you really have to go slow. Why? Because they're that super to your body. They will start to take out the bad guys so fast that they will cause damage. Why? Because they go after the bad guys, and you'll feel it as being hungover or the flu, because the bad guys are being killed off faster than you can get rid of them out your stool. So that's what fermented foods do, is they really help with that. So if you're just starting out with fermented foods, I recommend you start with the juice of sauerkraut and not the sauerkraut. A teaspoon, it's that powerful. A teaspoon of sauerkraut or a teaspoon of kimchi or a teaspoon of fermented vegetables, just start with that, the juice of it, and just see how your body responds, you know? If you're good with it, then you can try a little bit of the sauerkraut or the kimchi. But if you start to feel like you're getting rumbly in the tumbly, or you have disaster pants, which is, diarrhea, you know you've had too much, because there's a big battle going on. The bad guys are being killed off, and so the body's trying to get rid of them really quickly. So, but it is a good practice to introduce some of these fermented foods into our body. And so for me, like, I don't do well with sauerkraut. I've tried many times. I feel like I have the flu when I have it. So I know that that's not good for me because I'm reading my body. But you know what is good for me is this non-homogenized organic A2 from Jerseyland yogurt. It's really good for my system. And the other thing I did is I made up my own coconut kefir. And I can share that recipe with you. But to buy coconut kefir is really expensive, and I figured out a way where you can make it really inexpensive, and I've done that and it works. So if anybody wants a recipe for that, I'm happy to share. But sometimes I want my yogurt from the cow, and sometimes I want my yogurt or my kefir from coconut milk. So that's a fermented food. Another superfood would be, we don't eat enough sea vegetables. And so we're eating land vegetables, but we're forgetting about the sea vegetables. The sea vegetables are jam-packed with trace minerals that have a direct effect with your metabolism and the way that you detoxify. We need to get more of this iodine in our bodies. And I personally don't use iodine in my clinic because you have to really know what you're doing with that. And I don't want to be testing, every week for that. So all I do is say, eat some sea vegetables. It'll naturally contain the iodine for your body to have good thyroid, good metabolism, which leads to metabolism, allows your body to detoxify. Why? Because every cell needs iodine for it to properly release the toxins. And if it doesn't have enough iodine, then you're not getting rid of the toxins, and you're not feeling yourself because you're toxic. So let's try some sea vegetables. And a good start would be, if you go to the grocery store, just get some dulse. And it's in a package, and it's actually a really good snack, and it's kind of salty, and so I buy it, and it's just an amazing snack. And you can put this into your salads, really delicious. If you're making beans, you put the kombu in the beans while you cook the beans to allow for the beans to be easier to digest, and then eat the kombu after. That's what I do. It's really, really good. Bone broth, amazing for you. Anybody who has been sick and who's ready to start eating again, bone broth is the number one thing. Why? Because bone broth is full of collagen, is full of minerals, and when you're sick and you're in pain, you are acidic, and you need to bring the minerals in to balance that out. And so it's a whole food form of minerals, and the body looks at it and responds really well, and you'll find how quickly you recover from it. Okay, so bone broth soup. Bone broth, I drink a cup of bone broth almost every day, actually. So that's something to consider. And sprouts are really, really important. They're like these little handful of sprouts are so full of nutrition. If anybody's vegan or vegetarian and you want to increase the protein values, all you need to do, I found this out, is a handful of sprouts with a little bit of seeds, a tablespoon of seeds, a handful of sprouts, in with your meal. You're going to increase the whole protein value of the whole meal. So I learned that about vegans and vegetarians, how you can increase protein using plants. So sweeteners, we can have sweeteners, just pick the whole food form of sweeteners instead of like the white the processed stuff. So I like stevia. There's different types of stevia. So if you've tried stevia and you don't like it because it just doesn't taste good, there's other stevias that actually do taste good. Honey, coconut sugar, real maple syrup. Go with the grade B, it's full of minerals. And those are kind of the top ones. The other thing we need to pay attention to is we need to put salt in our foods. Not like regular white salt, but actually the salt that's discolored. It's Himalayan or Celtic salt. It's full of these trace minerals. It supports digestion. When you start to put that in the body, your body responds with good energy and better digestion. So that's something else to consider. And if you're someone here who's on a ketogenic diet, you've got to add a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of extra salt in your daily diet to make sure that you're getting those extra electrolytes, because you're reducing your carbohydrates. So I'm going to be closing this talk soon, but I didn't want to finish it without talking a little bit about supplements. So you can't supplement a bad diet. Right? So make sure that your diet's optimal. That's your number one thing to do. I would start there before even buying any supplements. I'd be looking at how can I eat in a way that is going to fuel my body instead of buying extra supplements. So now that I have that out of the way, let's talk about my 3 top supplements that I recommend. The first one is not enough people are eating enough protein. I'm telling you, I see this so much. We're not eating enough protein. So I recommend protein powder. But I recommend one that your body can digest. And so what does it do? Again, when we're training, we're breaking the body down. It supports the body for muscle growth. It also supports you from wasting away. It aids in detox. We talked about all these things. But anyways, it's great for those people that are time-starved, that are just running around. I mean, protein powder is so easy to use. So the second one is definitely creatine. Absolutely, hands down, creatine is amazing. I started using it a number of months ago and noticed a really big difference in my energy and my strength when I'm about to go train. And it actually, what I've heard is it fills out the muscles because it puts more water in the muscles so that they look more full, so you have like a nicer shape. But really, it actually enhances your energy. So it supports ATP, it supports the mitochondria. And it also helps you have greater output when you're about to go into the gym. You feel stronger, so you can train harder. It also helps with reducing muscle breakdown so that you aren't breaking down, you're building up. That's what you want to do. And guess what? It's really good for the brain. So not only is it good for the muscles, it's really good as a cognitive boost. So I recommend, the research that I've seen is 3 grams per serving. So a lot of servings are 5 grams. You can only absorb 3 grams. And so I would just break it up 3 grams 2 times a day, or just go with 3 grams. Your best time to have it is, in research that we're looking at now, is before you train. So you take it before you train, you get that extra strength, and then you go train. The third one is probiotic. Why do you want to take a probiotic? Because when you're exercising, you're actually creating stress, and if it goes on too long, you can lead to a leaky gut. So a lot of people, hard-charging athletes, or those that are in triathlons, or those that are training really hard, their gut starts to get leaky because they're inflaming. And so what we can do is we can combat that by making sure that we take a good probiotic to make sure that gut is really healthy. And you know what? Isn't gut important? Like that's the basis of our health, is getting that gut right. And so this really does support the gut. So you can either start with the fermented foods and see how that works, because that's a form of probiotic. Or if you're busy, you're traveling, you're not really able to have fermented foods, and you're looking for something quick, then I would definitely invest in a probiotic. Okay? And what it also allows you to do is, I don't think that we're like moving our bowels enough, and that's something you really need to pay attention to, because if not, we're recirculating those toxins, and why we're tired and we have pain is because we're toxic. So best way to get rid of the toxins is make sure you have 1 to 2 good bowel movements a day, and the probiotics will actually help feed the good bacteria for you to have a good bowel movement. And you're going to feel clean, and then you'll look lean. And it's really true. Like your brain turns on because the gut talks to the brain. It's so far reaching. So make sure you really pay attention to your gut, and a probiotic is a really good way to do that. If you're looking to get a probiotic, I'm going to recommend do not get an animal strain. You have to make sure it's from human strain, and then it's clinically proven to actually work in research studies. The only one I know of is through Genestra, because I've met with the scientist many times. I've seen his research. It's public. It's shown in the New England Journal of Medicine, and he clinically proves it, that it does have a direct effect in our digestive tract, and it's not a waste of money. Because, and it's there for you guys to look at it. I really want to make sure that when you do get your probiotic, that it's from a good brand. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. So we're just finishing up here, and I talked about micronutrients, I talked about macronutrients, which is the protein, carbs, and fats. Now we need to pull it all together into a good routine. So my 3 steps. So this is how I kind of work with my clients, is I give them blueprints how to navigate their day. Why? If you do, your body is in circadian rhythm. You have hormone balance. Everything is so tied to our hormones, but you need to be able to live your life for them to be working well. And so a good routine always starts with the morning. Don't you find that if you have like the best morning, everything works? Do you guys find that? If you have a good morning, like that you take care of yourself first, the whole day is awesome. But if you're struggling in the morning, it's hard to kind of have a good day. So I always recommend my clients, first thing in the morning is 1 liter of filtered water. So just get that 1 liter of filtered water, ideally before you have your breakfast. Why? Because you wake up like a prune, and I want you to be a grape. What happens is you wake up very dehydrated, and you need that water to actually give you body hydration for you to have energy. So instead of the coffee, which is a symptom of low energy, like try the water first. It's game changing. This is like free. And so go with the water, and then I would love to hear from you, really. Just that one thing. morning, have 1 liter of water, and then I'd like to hear how that feels for you, because you know what? Your body turns on, because it's removing the toxins, it's giving your body energy, and it allows you to really know when you're even hungry. Because sometimes you think you're hungry, you're actually dehydrated. That is a total mismatch to our body composition. No. So a way to biohack that, or a way to tick off the box, is start your day with 1 liter of water. The other thing is, I'm good with coffee as long as you don't have adrenal fatigue, but the coffee needs to be organic. Otherwise it's moldy coffee and you're putting mold in your body and you're gonna feel like mold. So make sure that when you have your coffee, it's actually from an organic source. Why? Because it's one of the most highly sprayed crops out there, full of all these pesticides, herbicides, and then again, our liver has to deal with that. It's already going crazy with everything that it has to deal with. So let's take the load off the liver. Let's make sure that our coffee is organic. And here's the next thing with coffee. If you're a coffee lover like I am, French press. Why? Because it keeps the polyphenols intact. You're getting more nutrition from the oils. You're getting more nutrition from the coffee. And actually it's good cognitive boost, and it's really good for metabolism. It will speed up metabolism. It's been shown to move our white fat to brown fat. Brown fat helps us stay warm. White fat is our, our stuff around here that maybe we don't want so much, or the love handles. So it's really good for that. And hey, it gets you ready for a good workout. Why not? Like my routine is I have water in the morning, I have my 1 cup of French press, and I go train. I start my day walking outside, because the other thing is, why do we want to be outside? When you're outside in the morning, you actually signal to the body to make melatonin to be able to release it at night. If you have a trouble sleeping at night, I highly recommend you try it for just 1 week. Just get outside first thing in the morning before 10 a.m. This is completely researched. 20 minutes is all you need before 10 a.m. walking outside without the sunglasses, because that doesn't work. But with sunglasses off, the rays enter your pineal gland, talks the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that runs faster, your hormones start to work, and you start to make melatonin. You have to make melatonin to release it. So if you're not out all day, you're wondering why you're not sleeping, because you didn't make your melatonin, then you have to supplement. Well, that's costing you money. Let's have the body live naturally and do what we're supposed to do. What do you think animals do when they wake up? They go outside. Our ancestors, years ago, they used to go outside first thing in the morning. Hunters, gatherers. That's how we're designed to live. We are not living that way anymore and wondering why we're not doing well. We're living artificial lives. We need to move you over to a natural diet, natural lifestyle. Because when you do, just pick a few things. And just pay attention to your body. It's amazing. It responds so quickly, and it's free. Walking outside, put your runners on and just go for a walk. Like seriously. It also regulates cortisol. You have cortisol receptor sites all over your skin, and actually helps modulate cortisol. Cortisol, you want to make sure cortisol is balanced, because cortisol rises in the morning with the sun and it falls with the sun in the evening. So you want to make sure your cortisol rises in the morning and it falls in the evening. And guess what? Melatonin is the opposite of that. So if you're wired and tired, your cortisol, melatonin is not right. You've got to get it right. How do you do that? Get outside in the morning for 20 minutes before 10 a.m. And that's a good start. The other thing is, so that's your morning routine. There's 3 little tips there. And the other thing is, eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. So that means, why are we eating when we're told to eat? No, you eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full. A really good thing to do is pick a window of time to eat, and then pick another window of time not to eat. It allows your liver to regenerate, allows your body not to be digesting all that food so that it can do other things, which is repair the body from all the workouts you've been doing. So for women, I always recommend they start with 10-hour window of eating. So 10 hours. So if you start your breakfast at 10, then you would finish your dinner, say 8. And then you would fast for 14 hours. Men, they're totally different animal. You guys your hormones are different. So you guys can go longer with your fast. Women can't go as long because we're hormonally different. So for you can go with an 8-hour window of eating and a 16-hour fast. It's called intermittent fasting, and my clients love it because they can actually feed their bodies well during that time, and during the fast, they burn fat. They raise ketones. When you do this, in the morning, you're actually using ketones to turn the brain on instead of taking MCT oil. You guys are making it yourself. So again, you're wasting your money with that stuff. Do what your body's naturally meant to do. That's all I'm suggesting. You guys can try it. The other thing is get outside as much as you can. Why? Because we're meant to be outside. We're under the wrong lights and it's telling our body it's the wrong time of day. Your body needs to be in certain rhythm and circadian rhythm. To do that, it needs to be outside in the sunlight. We are not outside enough and we need to get outside. Why? Vitamin D deficiency. That's the number one thing why we're sick. It's linked to low vitamin D. Get outside, make your own vitamin D. Instead of popping all this vitamin D, do your best to get outside and make your own vitamin D. You can save all this money, right? And then evening routine. So now that you set the stage to make melatonin in the morning, we want to be able to release it at night. If you're looking at blue light, your screen, or the TV, or your phone, you've just destroyed the melatonin you made. So my suggestion is to be mindful of keeping it dark at night and not destroying your melatonin you made, because the blue light from all these screens does destroy the melatonin. So if you're someone who works at night like I do, or my kids put the lights on and put all that blue light on, what I do is I wear blue light blocking glasses. I call these my sexy glasses because it makes it fun. But anyways, this is what I wear at night. And so it blocks my blue light. So guess what? My kids can put the light on, they can put the TV on, I can go work, and I am not destroying my melatonin. So that's something to consider. I find it works for me. But you'll have to see that for yourself. But we know definitively that blue light does destroy melatonin. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, you might want to try some of these tricks. Well, we're at the end of the talk. I probably blew your head off, probably, maybe not. I hope that you learned a few things, because really there's a lot of information out there, but it's really about implementation. So there's so much information. There's a lot of it, but really it's just pick one or two things that you learned from today and just try it. Because really it's free. I mean, I'm not asking you to spend more money. I'm just saying drink water in the morning, go for a walk. That's all free. If we start to do these things, your body will respond in a way you'll go, oh my gosh, like this is so easy. Yeah, it is, but you just try it. Just try it for a week. And then I really would love to hear how it goes for you, because I get so excited when people start to live a natural lifestyle, because you know what? Their lives get better. Okay? And then you're not sold a bit of goods. That's just not about your health. This is about your health, and isn't it important? It is. That's why you're here. So if you want to learn more about me, I actually do one-on-one consulting. I have a physical practice, so I actually have a clinic where I see people. I also work remotely all over North America, and I customize plans. I love plans. I love structure. So you would get your diet, your detox, and your daily routine all in one beautiful plan. And I also do the micronutrient test. If you guys want to test your micronutrients, I do blood work and actually give you a panel that shows you exactly where you're sitting with all your nutrients that do dictate function. So we can see if you're deficient or borderline, or if you're fine. So a lot of times we're taking supplements, we don't need them, and you're throwing your body off. One example would be calcium, if you're not taking it with magnesium, or you don't have enough zinc. That we talked about that, or enough carnitine. Like these things I love to test, and it's really empowering because we have these available now where we didn't have before. So it's just a simple blood test and a good thing. I also have 2 online programs now because I want to reach out to more people and show them, guess what? A natural diet, natural lifestyle is, I want to move people in this direction because it really does work, and it's way less costly than spinning your wheels in that direction. So I have a 7-day Simple Health Reset. It's just a 7-video series which gives you 7 areas to pay attention to and a little action planner. It's like a really good first starter to open up your eyes to what really is healthy. And then I have a Slim, Strong, and Sexy 6-week program, which is going to get you guys Beachbody ready. And that's going to be in March. So I have those 2. So anyways, I'm here for any questions if you have any. And I want to thank you so much for being here and empowering your health. And I hope that you found a few things that maybe you're going to try, right? And then get a hold of me. Let me know how it goes. So I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.